I harvested my Asian pears like 2 months ago, and then I found this rogue one here. Took a bite out of it. It's good. I love fall, but I'm also kind of sad because I know that I'm sitting in the beginning of October. I probably have one more good month of gardening. I was just thinking this morning that I got to plan my garden infrastructure projects. I don't have very many things on deck. I'm thinking about, preparing beds, trimming some big branches out of the way of some trees that are around here. I need to put up some rabbit fencing. If you followed me this year, know rabbits have been an issue. So those are some of the infrastructure projects. But when it comes, last year's big infrastructure project was the pergola potting bench project. I have some leftover from that pergola potting bench project. Like I could add some rain gutters to it and maybe put some and actually do some rain barrels as well as something I'd like to do. And then so there's some there, and also the way I put the roofing on wasn't quite waterproof, so I get a lot of leaking inside there, which, I mean, it's all meant to be outdoors, so it's not a tragedy, but it could be improved. But I brought this topic up of infrastructure projects because as I was thinking about it this morning, in my view, I only have like 3 months, because what I don't like to do is, like, once I start like the whole seed planting process in the basement in the greenhouse and that whole engine gets running, I like to really be able to focus on that. And I don't like I feel like if I've got like leftover garden infrastructure projects that haven't been done yet, then it's just this like monkey on my shoulder that carries on through the season, and I don't like that feeling. So the way I'm seeing it is I've got the months of November, December, January. I basically got 3 months to get through all the garden infrastructure projects, and whatever I don't really get through done then, I would put on hold until the next year, so that I can spend February through October really focusing on what I really enjoy doing, which is planting seeds, raising starts, putting them in the ground, keeping the beds nice, really working the garden and making it look nice, but not fundamentally changing the garden infrastructure. At least that's my whole thought process on this. Yeah, I just thought I would share that. And otherwise, what you see me doing behind me there is cleaning up some beds. I've got harvesting going on here in October, and hoping that, I love this fall weather, and I hope it kind of just continues like this for a while, and maybe I'll have a good kind of fall garden that carries on maybe even into December. We'll see. Hey there. Welcome to the greenhouse. I've got a bunch of peppers that I'm harvesting today, and I've got this newer one for me called the habanana pepper, which is a habanero that has been it was a habanero, but the heat was bred out of it, so it's no longer a habanero. It's actually now a sweet pepper, but it's got kind of the habanero flavor to it. And they're turning, when they're orange like this is when they're ready. When they're immature, they look green like this one here. And I've eaten one the other day, and it was tasty. I mean, I think it might be an acquired flavor. There was part of it that I was kind of like, I'm not sure I like this. It kind of a tropical fruitiness to it that was still a little bit astringent, but it was not hot. So, yeah, maybe I'll keep eating it and see if I report back that I've acquired a taste for it. Beautiful day in the garden here today, this fall day. I'm loving it. I love this weather for gardening, and I wish, if it would last consistently for a period of time, then I think I could be planting things right now, knowing that if the weather was just like this, they would grow and things would be nice. I mean, it wouldn't be the hottest weather crops that I'd plant right now, but I'm not going to plant anything by seed in the ground right now because I don't plant anything by seed in the ground rarely anyway. I usually, if you followed me, I usually do it in cell trays first, little plugs, and then I put it in the ground later. But in any case, I wouldn't be starting veggies from seed right now, for example, because as we are in the beginning of October, they just probably won't have enough time. The days won't be like this forever. They will very quickly, they will go from this to super rainy and much more cold. But what I'm working on back here behind me, I've got some leeks, some beets, some kale, some bok choy. So I'm harvesting that stuff. I said I'm not planting anything from seed, but I do still have some plants that are that are starts and plugs. I think any of those that I'm putting in the ground now will probably at best overwinter and hopefully be ready by spring, but we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you updated. Hey, what's up there? Last night I opened a good cheap bottle of wine. For home, I will have to admit, I like to buy cheap wine from I'm talking like a $7 wine from Costco, and there's some of those that I actually kind of like, and so I was enjoying a cheap bottle of wine out here in the potting shed, and went to town on straightening it up and organizing it, and realized how cozy it is here, how much I like this here, this potting shed. I inherited this essentially when I purchased the property, or it came with the property. I put some of those things that are in here, the furniture and things like that. But yeah, I really enjoy being out here, and it made me think about like the difference between this and the greenhouse. Why do I enjoy this? If I were to start from scratch on a property and build a place for potting, an indoor potting area, or right now at this point of the year, it's kind of my indoor food processing or my food storage area. It's like where I got tomatoes stored and garlic and onions and stuff like that. If I were to do that like this, if I were to build something like this from scratch on a new property, would I do it as a shed like this, or would I do it as another greenhouse? Like, because sometimes it's fun to hang out in the greenhouse too, and there's really not a lot of space to hang out in the greenhouse because I'm trying to maximize the amount of plants that I can get in there. So I stuff that full of plants, so I can't really hang out in the greenhouse on a drizzly day like this the way I can hang out in the potting shed. And so I was thinking about that, and my tentative conclusion though is that I think you need kind of both, like in the full-fledged deal. I mean, let's face it, none of us need both, but I think it's nice to have both. I should say that because like putting these tomatoes out and some of the, storing some of my, I stored like the bulbs here, the tulips that I've talked about before that we dug up and we that we store here, because it can get hot in here during the summer, but it also, like, gonna get the windows and the doors open and the breeze, it can stay relatively cool and it's shaded, versus in the greenhouse all that stuff is just going to get a bunch of direct light and be roasted and things like that. So I do think there is in your arsenal of things that are nice to haves, I would say that, yeah, I guess having kind of a potting shed like this, or an indoor space like this that is not just totally exposed to the outside sun weather is helpful, along with the greenhouse. If I had to choose between the two, that would be tough. I probably then would choose like a greenhouse, and then I would use part of the greenhouse kind of for my potting area, but that way I still have the greenhouse piece. Well, those are some ruminations on my potting shed here. Edible amaranth. I have to admit that I haven't actually cooked it up. I have eaten the leaves out in the garden for snacks. What I'm hearing is, what I read and heard is other people say that they cook it and eat it like spinach. I think it kind of tastes like spinach when I eat in the garden. It's a little more substantial than spinach, and I guess is a way to put it. And certainly that's what folks say, that it's more hardy, and certainly in terms of growth, like, it grew through the hot season better than spinach without bolting and all that. So there's still some of it here in the garden, and I'm harvesting it, and it goes into the donation box, and my customers are getting it. So I hope they're making good use of it. Well, hey, a couple months back, one of my viewers posted in the comments that, gee, it'd be nice to know kind of what you're planting when. We're trying to follow along with you. And I didn't completely ignore it. I've been thinking about it. How can I best do that? So here's a quick list of the things I'm planting this week so you can follow along. The last of the 4-inch pot Brussels sprouts. I had about 24 Brussels sprouts that I grew in 4-inch pots, and they're now about 8 to 12 inches tall. I've been planting them in the ground for over the last few weeks. I'm hoping to get Brussels before the end of the year. We'll see. Kohlrabi starts I'm putting in the ground now were started back in mid-July. They're 2-inch starts that probably won't have time to swell for harvest before year end, so I'm hoping they'll overwinter and be able to crop early spring. Purple sprouting broccoli starts were seeded in trays back in mid-July. I'm putting them in the ground now with the intention of overwintering and providing sprouts early spring during the so-called hungry gap. I'm planting 2-inch leeks from cell trays also started in July and intending they will be ready next spring. My first planting of lettuces in early August didn't survive the heat. I now have some 2-inch lettuce starts in trays started in early September. I'm putting those in the ground hoping for salad before year end. Now is a great time to plant daffodils. I started planting the variety Ice Follies this weekend. We have about 20 bulbs left, and then it'll be on to the tulips and garlic. Bye everyone.